The economy of Spain, group number five, the fifth group, consisting of Alexis, Monique, Chantel, and Julia. Historical economic systems and the market center economic systems in Spain. These systems are usually called capitalism and did not become dominant until the early 19th century. Markets remained peripheral to the lives of most people for tens of thousands of years. The rise of money and state allowed this type of market to flourish when it came to the market center economic systems. In the Spain and market economic systems, in the mid 16th century, Spain economy was mainly focused and based on agriculture and trade, which generated a lot of tax revenue for the Habsburg monarchy. By 1600, Spain's money supply had increased due to the influx of gold and silver from the New World, and this marked the beginning of capitalism. But this also led to the inflation, and the economy began to decline after the late 16th century. Continuing on that, next is the state-centered economic systems. Those function through the exercise of power by a small group of rulers. Also, estates existed to enable citizens to achieve goals that could not be pursued through the market due to collective action problems. The origins the origins of the states can be traced back to the transition from nomadic hunting, gathering tribes to stationary communities. Tech improvements in agricultural and animal husbandry caused a longer lifespan and increased population. The first informal states were established by tribal elders to provide guides to reduce conflict over property rights. The Catholic monarchs' rule and their reforms made Spain one of the most prosperous economies in Europe and the center of a sprawling empire. The colonization of the Americas and the Philippines, where the untold wealth further bolstered Spain's economy. As a result, most most researchers agree that Spain reached the height of its economic growth in the mid 16th century, although in a number of regions, growth extended into the 1580s. Based mostly in agriculture, the economy also benefited from the development of crafts and, above all, trade, generating vast tax revenue for the Habsburg monarchy expansive policy of war. Community-centered economic systems also. These types of systems prevailed for thousands of centuries before empires arose to organize human affairs. With the lack of trade and political authority, tribes battled each other for control of the territory. Communities function within civil societies. Overall, these systems focus on improving economic outcomes in underinvested neighborhoods. Though all of this aims to build community power, shift relational dynamics, and bridge policy silos. During the Spanish Civil War, which was in 1936 to 1939, workers in the colonial region of Spain took over and managed most of the factories in the region. That experiment ended with the supporters of Generalissimo Francisco Franco, 1892 to 1975, won the war and restored private ownership. However, firms in the Basque region of Spain faced global competition, so the combo of the depressed European economy and imported goods from low-cost manufacturers in Asia has challenged Mondragon's survival. Transitions and terminations, primitive communalism. So, what is primitive communalism? Primitive communalism refers to the earliest form of economic organization in human societies. In this system, resources like land, food, and tools were shared among the community with no private ownership. Everyone contributed to the survival of the group, often through hunting, gathering, or early forms of agriculture. Transition in Spain. In ancient Spain, early human societies lived in small groups and shared their resources. As people began to settle down and farm the land, they started to accumulate surplus food and resources, which led to the development of more complex social structures where certain individuals or groups began to control more resources than others. This caused a shift away from communal sharing, marked the beginning of social hierarchies and the move towards a more organized society with distinct classes setting the stage for the next economic system. Continuing on transition and terminations with slave economy. What is a slave economy? A slave economy is one in which the labor force consists largely of enslaved people who are owned by others. Enslaved people have no personal freedom or rights and are forced to work without pay, often in harsh conditions, in which this system was very common in many ancient civilizations, including the Roman Empire. Its transition to Spain during the Roman rule, Spain had a slave-based economy. Many people were enslaved and forced to work on farms and mines or as domestic servants. The collapse of the Roman Empire in the 5th century led to the decline of the slave economy in Spain. As central Roman authority weakened, local power structures emerged, leading to the rise of feudalism. With frequent wars and social upheavals, large-scale slavery became less sustainable and land ownership became the primary source of wealth and power. This transition marked the end of the slave economy and the beginning of feudalism in Spain. Going on with feudalism in Spain, that's continuing on with transition and terminations. Feudalism is a system where society is structured around relationships derived from the holding of land in exchange for service or labor. In this system, a few powerful nobles owned large amounts of land, and peasants worked on this land in return for protection and a place to live, in which the economy was very largely agricultural and social mobility was very limited. In Spain, feudalism became the dominant economic system during the Middle Ages. However, several factors contributed to its decline, such as the Reconquista, a long series of wars between Christian and Muslim kingdoms in Spain that led to the unification of Spain under Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella. These monarchs also centralized power and reduced the influence of the nobility, weakening the feudal structure. The growth of towns and trade also played a role as more people moved to the cities and became involved in commerce. The rigid feudal system began to break down. The discovery of the Americas in 1492 and the wealth that flowed into Spain from its colonies further accelerated this decline. The end of feudalism paved the way for the rise of mercantilism, where the economy became more focused on trade, colonization, and the accumulation of wealth. Also, with transition and terminations with mercantilism. So, what is mercantilism? Mercantilism is an economic system that emerged in the early modern period where the wealth of a nation is measured of the amount of gold and silver it possesses. Countries aim to accumulate wealth through trade, especially by exporting more than they imported and acquiring colonies to provide raw materials and markets for goods. Spain was one of the first European countries to adopt mercantilism, driven by the wealth from its vast overseas empire, especially in the Americas. However, there were several issues that led to the decline of mercantilism in Spain, which were inflation, which, with that, the massive influx of gold and silver from the Americas caused significant inflation, devaluing currency and leading to economic instability. Another reason, another issue that led to the decline of mercantilism was the costly wars. In Spain, there was involved in numerous expensive wars, which drained its resources budget. Also, poor management. The Spanish community economy was poorly managed with inefficient taxation and over reliance on colonial wealth. As Spain's power waned in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, it became clear that mercantilism was no longer sustainable. Enlightenment ideas promoting free trade and economic liberalism began to take hold, pushing away Spain toward the early stages of capitalism. Early capitalism is categorized by a private ownership of the means of production with goods and produce for profit in a competitive market, which with that it involves the accumulation of capital, the use of wage labor, and the expansion of trade. Spain's transition to capitalism was slower than in any other European countries, partly due to its late start in industrialization, but also the economy remains heavily reliant on agriculture, particularly in the south, while regions like Catalonia and the Basque Country began to industrialize. There was a loss of colonial wealth as Spain lost its colonies in the 19th century. It can no longer rely on the riches from the Americas, in which it was forced in the country to modernize its economy. Also, with this transition was industrialization. In regions like Catalonia, textile production and other industries began to take off, signaling a shift towards an industrial capitalist economy. This uneven development created regional disparities that have continued to influence Spain's economy to this day. Industrial capitalism refers to an economic system that emerged during the Industrial Revolution, categorized by the large scale production of goods in factories, the use of machinery, and the growth of urban centers. This system led to significant social and economic changes, including the rise of a working class and the growth of cities. The termination in Spain in industrial capitalism began in the early 20th century, which was a tumultuous period for Spain that was marked by economic hardship, social unrest, and political instability. The Spanish Civil War that was 1936 to 1939 devastated the country, leading to the rise of Francisco Franco's dictatorship, in which under Franco, Spain actually adopted a policy of autarky, aiming for economic self-sufficiency by limiting foreign trade and investment. This approach stunted Spain's industrial development and isolated it from the global economy. After Franco died in 1975, Spain began to open up its economy and integrate into the global market. After that transition, it started joining the European Economic Community, known as EEC, in 1986, marked a significant shift towards a mixed economy, blending capitalist principles with government intervention to modernize the economy. Socialism and communism. Socialism is an economic system where the means of production are owned and controlled by the state or collectively by the people, with the aim of reducing inequality and providing for the common good. Communism is a more extreme form of socialism where there is no private ownership and all goods are shared equally among the people. This transition in Spain, socialist and communist ideas gained popularity in Spain during the early 20th century, especially during the Second Spanish Republic, which was from 1931 to 1939. In the Spanish Civil War, there was a conflict between Republican forces, which included socialists and communists, and the national forces led by Franco. Within its termination, Franco's victory in 1939 ended in the Second Republic and established a fascist dictatorship that suppressed socialist and communist movements. Despite this, socialist ideas continued to influence labor movements and political discourse in Spain. In its re-emergence after Franco's death, Spain transitioned to democracy and socialist parties such as the Spanish Socialist Workers, PSOE, became major political forces. These parties helped shape Spain's modern welfare state, blending elements of socialism with a capitalist economy. Mixed economy. A mixed economy combines elements of both capitalism and socialism. It features private enterprise alongside significant government intervention in the economy, particularly in areas like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Its current state in Spain's economy today is a mixed economy where both private businesses and government involved plays very important roles. Spain's integration in the European Union has had a major impact on its economy, leading to modernization and increased trade. However, the country faces challenges such as high unemployment, economic inequality, and the need to transition to a more sustainable economy. New direction in this economy's future. Digital transformation. Spain is investing heavily in digital infrastructure, aiming to become a leader in technology and innovation. This includes initiatives like the Spain Digital Agenda 2025, which focuses on expanding digital connectivity, fostering digital skills, and supporting tech driven businesses. Green economy. Spain is committed to transitioning towards a more sustainable economy. The government has set ambitious targets for reducing carbon emissions and increasing renewable energy use, particularly in solar and wind power as part of the European Green Deal. Social challenges. High youth unemployment, regional disparities, and economic inequality remain significant issues. That address these challenges would be very critical for ensuring inclusive growth and social stability. Globalization and trade. Spain continues to deepen its integration into the global economy with a focus on diversifying its trading partners and enhancing its role with the European Union. Questions about economic future. Can Spain successfully transition to a green economy? How will Spain balance economic growth with environmental sustainability? What role will innovation and public policy play in this transition? What is the future of Spain's labor market? How will automation, remote work, and digitalization impact employment? Can Spain effectively reduce unemployment and create opportunities for young people? Will regional inequalities persist? How can Spain address the economic disparities between its various regions? What measures will be needed to ensure more balanced development across the country? Conclusion. Historical evolution. Spain's economy has undergone significant transformations from early communal systems, enslaved economies, to feudalism, mercantilism, and modern capitalism. Each transition has been shaped by both internal factors and global influences. Impact of economic systems. The evolution of Spain's economic system has had profound effects on its social structure, political power, and international standing. The shifts from feudalism to capitalism and later towards a mixed economy illustrate the dynamic nature of economic development. Modern challenges. Spain today faces the challenge of navigating a complex global economy while addressing domestic issues such as unemployment, regional disparities, and sustainability. The direction Spain chooses will have lasting impacts on its future prosperity and the social cohesion. Looking forward, Spain's future will depend on its ability to adapt to new economic realities, including the digital and green revolutions. The questions posed about the future highlight the uncertainties and opportunities that lie ahead as Spain continues to evolve its economic models. Attach our references for our project. This concludes the narration and project of the Spain economy.